Hogan could have access to alien technology. Number 6, WrestleMania 30 surprise. Hulk Hogan claimed that aside from mixing up the Superdome and the Silver Dome, he also claimed he had no idea, oh my God, he had no idea that Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock were coming out to interrupt him. Now, I kind of like shook my head for half a second, but it is within the WWE way of doing things to get a natural reaction. But I don't think Austin and Rock, they have actually, I'm flipping back and forth because I'm trying to think. Wasn't there a WWE 24 documentary where they were all backstage talking before okay, now that I recall it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I actually had a screen grab of those three talking beforehand as well. But yes, so obviously it was all planned out. I wonder if they told The Rock and Steve Austin that they were going out as well, and then just Steve Austin just, oh, I'm in the middle of the ring in WrestleMania 30. They didn't tell me.
My real question is, where did they fly from, and how many days did they gain when they went to the Superdome?
I think Austin would have only gained hours because he probably was flying from California.
What an amateur. What an amateur compared to Hogan.
We'll move. There's not really anything to say other than that definitely he knew. Okay, number 7.
Number 7, George Foreman Grill. And I know this one. He's told this forever. Quote, "Hey, Hulk, this is Sam Permutter. I got a grill and I got a blender, and I'm going to call you and George Foreman to see who wants it." Quote, "I wasn't there to answer the call, so when I called Sam back, he said George took the grill." What do you think?
Well, he would come out years later with his own version of the George Foreman Grill in like the mid-2000s. And I actually remember, I don't know if someone messaged me or told me to turn the channel. It was Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart flogging a Hulk Hogan Grill on one shopping network. I don't know what it was. There's 1,000 out there, and I'm sure there are 1,000 still. And I remember watching this and just thinking, what a JoJo performance of just trying to piggyback onto the grill thing a dozen years after it's sold. Well, not, it's a great product and everything, but, a dozen years after the best grill has already come out with George Foreman. All right, do you believe... I mean,
wait a minute, so you think...
Blender?
I'm going to say, so you're trying to tell me that Pastamania was a huge, huge failure?
That was in the Mall of America, wasn't it? I think it lasted a year. It lasted a year or less than that before it closed down. I've actually seen menus from that. Here's another thing about Pastamania. It's like, how many bodybuilders do you know out there who says, I'll tell you what, just before a big match, what I like to do is clog my guts up with a giant pasta meal?
Not too many. As a matter of fact, eating anything before a match is usually not the thing that most wrestlers want to do. So, hey, capitalizing on the Hulk Hogan name, trying to put that in there, I never understood athletes or actors, entertainers that have all this money that they could just put in certain investments and make passive income that trumps any brick and mortar business, but they all feel like they have to open up a restaurant, which is one of the hardest things to do, dealing with code, licensing, health inspectors, turnover. It's one of the, if not the hardest business to run, especially if you're on the road wrestling. Then you got people stealing money and doing all this. I don't know what the thing is of, I'm opening a steakhouse, I'm opening a restaurant, I'm opening Pastamania. It has never, ever worked out. And by the way, just a little fun fact, my wife and I went to an estate sale not too long ago. The person's still alive. I offered my condolences, and they're like, what are you talking about? We just put her in a home. So I got a George Foreman Grill in the box, brand new, never used, for $1 American, and it still works. So there you go, Hulk Hogan. You missed out on that.
You missed out on that dollar. I'm going to give you the full quote here because it gets a bit weirder. Keep in mind that Hulk Hogan actually at one point had like a Hulkster meatball maker. And he's had a weird blender and stuff like that as well. He's been trying to chase ever since 94 when apparently the Foreman Grill first came out.
I guarantee you, what he was capitalized on with the meatball maker? I want you to guess. Where did he come up with the meatball maker?
I have no idea.
He called Stallone Meatball in Rocky 3.
There you go.
Yep.
If it could have Sylvester Stallone's lopsided face somehow printed in the meatball.
Stallone's not stupid. He wants some money.
No.
He's trademarked that face, I'm sure. I'm going to give you the full quote from this is actually from Hogan Knows Best, apparently. When asked if he passed up on the George Foreman grill, he said, "Stop, that's not true. My kids were upset because I was always picking them up late from school. So I said, I'm going to beat all these soccer moms today, and went to McDonald's, got a cooler and everything ready, and got to the school at 2:30 p.m. instead of 3:30 p.m. And now I've finally got all the soccer moms behind me and my kids excited I got there early. Then I get home and press the old school voicemail record machine and it says, 'Hey Hulk, this is Sam Perlmutter. I've got a grill for you and I've got a blender and I'm going to call you and George Foreman to see who wants it.' I wasn't there to answer the call, so when I called Sam back, he said George took the grill. So basically $550 million later, George got the lean mean grilling machine and I got a blender that when you put AA batteries in, it would fart and then turn off."
There's no commentary, I guess.
I don't even know what to say about that. I don't even know.
No. So,
answer your phone, brother. Answer that phone.
It's like, damn. It's like just because George Foreman had nothing to do on an afternoon.
You know what it is, too, at wrestlers? Here's what I'm going to say, and this is not exclusive to Hulk Hogan. George Foreman is one of the most recognizable characters, one of the biggest redemption stories. He was one of the most hated, not only athletes, but people in the world. You know, you watch that fight with Ali where they were putting curses on him and he got sick. I mean, it was crazy. Was it Rumble in the Jungle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zaire. Yeah.
To go from pretty much everybody wanting to kill this guy and he was just a big, mean dude, to being the most beloved athlete maybe in history. And then the George Foreman grill and just doing that. And what Foreman did, and I don't think Hogan could have did it then, and I don't think Hogan does it now, and a lot of wrestlers cannot kind of goof on themselves and kind of laugh at themselves and be. Foreman was very disarming, extra disarming, because he realized his reputation previously that he needed to go all the way into teddy bear mode, and it made him $500 million, if not more. One of the most beloved, inspirational stories post boxing or any sport that you'll ever hope to have.
You know what George Foreman named his kids, do you?
George.
His daughters are Natalie Foreman, Leola Foreman, Georgetta Foreman, Frida George Foreman, and Meecha Foreman. They're the daughters, so 2 Georges there. But the sons are George Jr., George III, George IV, George V, and George VI. It's like a royal dynasty, all within one generation somehow. They've managed to get there. I thought I'd just mention that, just in case you thought that wrestlers had an ego problem.
Number 8, UFC Won. Yes, you've heard that correctly, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your own, predict the ending of this. Hulk Hogan claimed to Melbourne's Herald Sun that he was invited to.
Oh, yeah.
My brain
So
will not allow me to
you've
read
never heard
that.
this one before then?
Never heard this one.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan claimed to Melbourne's Herald Sun that he was invited to fight at UFC Won, and I watch UFC Won. You couldn't pay me enough. I don't care if invitation or not. He also claimed that he used to fight Pride fighters, oh my God, back in the 1970s when he first started going over to Japan. Pride was formed in 1997.
Now, I don't know if he was just using Pride fighters as a catch-all term for shooters, which he may well have been doing. I'm actually going to give Hogan the benefit of the doubt. So he was talking about when he used to first go over to Japan, you didn't know who you'd be staring at the other side of the ring, which, and I'm going to be very kind here, is fairly true. You don't know who's going to try and take liberties with you from all the stories I've heard from everyone who went to Japan, all that kind of thing. But I tacked that one onto the UFC claim, where he actually did claim that he was invited to fight at UFC Won. How do you think Hulk Hogan... I mean, maybe if he was paired against Richard Belzer, he might have had a chance.
Oh, yeah, there's all that there. Hey, I was going to say this. If you think there's shoot fighters over in Japan, UFC Won, and that was no rules. No rules. Was there even rounds? In my estimation, I don't even think, like, it was done in a tournament style, right? I mean, guys were fighting multiple times. In Japan, I will give that to them, too. You're a gaijin, you're an American wrestler, you're going over there, they're going to test you. Matsuda did break his leg in wrestling school. That was not a story. Other people have verified that. And Japan's pretty rough. You're talking about in the 70s, Antonio Inoki. I can't pronounce Rikazan. There's very famous...
Ricky Dozan.
Ricky Dozan.
I mean, obviously, Hulk Hogan probably wrestled Ricky Dozan as well, even though he died in the 60s.
Yeah, we'll see where that is on number 9 and number 10. But nonetheless, the way the legacy of the way that guy trained young boys, and then Inoki and everybody, you are in the ring with people that are potentially shooters. So you don't know what's going to happen. And I will give Hogan credit, man. If you think Hogan could not wrestle and he was just 5 moves of doom or whatever got him over in American wrestling, watch his Japanese stuff. Hogan could go. He could go. Enziguris. He did the Tiger Mask International thing with the drop toe hold. He could wrestle. He wrestled Hansen, Inoki. I'm trying to think of different people throughout those generations during his time in Japan. Brody.
Who did he wrestle on that 1991 tour? You know, when the WWF were working with the new...
Muda? It was Muda, I think. Great match, if that's the one I'm thinking about.
Not the one I'm thinking about, but I'm going to try and find it. But yeah, there's like even into the 90s when he's, fully into the WWF 5 Moves of Doom thing. And then he goes over to Japan and boy, does he just turn it on. He's doing moves that you'd never see anywhere else.
I do have to stand grounded. I think that was Muda that he wrestled as KJ Muto, not Muda with, I don't know. Did he blow the... They had a great match. Whenever it was, it's up on YouTube. I've watched it. He can go. He could go back then. So maybe that was contributing to his back issues because those
Tenru.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking of. Apologies for breaking into that. It was upsetting.
Once again, Tenru for his size could move too. They had a great match.
The UFC Won. Keep in mind that was in 1993. Also keep in mind that Hulk Hogan had really leaned out by this point, so maybe he wasn't training for a UFC debut, who could say. But a tweet by Bloody Elbow revealed that Hogan's bluff was exposed by Campbell McLaren, one of the UFC founders, because of a very simple factual error. He's talking about Pride in the 1970s. But he also says that, I'm trying to get the quote here, but he denied directly sending an offer to the Hulkster for UFC Won. So that's one of the founders of UFC saying absolutely not. I don't know. Well, there you go. We need to get the other one, and I can't remember the other guy's name. Next one, number 9.
Yeah, you alluded to this earlier. So
yeah, I heard this recently. Number 9, Kevin Owens Discovery. I love that first line. Quote, I hate to brag about it, but I hate to brag about it, but I'm the first one to point out. Oh, excuse me. I hate to brag about it, but I'm the first one to point the finger at Kevin Owens. I saw him on NXT like his second match and saw him just chop, beat, grind, and beating his guy down. Doing it in the old school way and really understanding how to get heat. Doing it in the old school way, and I said, quote, that's the guy. I said, quote, that's the guy. I don't care if he looks like a wrestler or looks like an ice cream salesman. He just buries him. I don't care. That's the guy. Well, Kevin Owens,
pretty good line.
I think you need to reach out to Hulk Hogan. Sorry.
Yeah, Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen has never said that Hulk Hogan went to bat for him once. But I like that Hulk Hogan was... how many times have you ever heard the line, I hate to brag, but...
Here it comes. That's just a wrestling thing. Wrestling thing is you got to get your stuff in. You always have to be right about everything. You always have to be the best at everything. we kind of go the opposite way. You have to stop me from the other way of talking about myself. But these examples right here are the reason why I am the way I am. You got to keep yourself in check. You got to keep it real. I get things wrong, but man, I mean, this kind of stuff, I don't know what this even does. Because all you have to do is ask Kevin Owens and he'll be like, I don't know. If anything, Triple H discovered Kevin Owens from the Indies and Ring of Honor and other places. I'm sure he was on the radar of somebody in NXT in a performance center. And didn't Kevin Owens, I mean, they put it up on YouTube, the first promo he did at the performance center, that's what impressed everybody and got him his job and got him kind of on that road.
Keep in mind that Hulk Hogan once, a lot more recently, said about AEW wrestlers that half of them look like they should be bagging his groceries.
So he's quite hung up on looks as old Hogan. So I don't
so
quite
they're
know
all the guy. So they're all the guy then, right?
Which I love
that line. It's like they should be. He's not wrong, Hogan, that they should be bagging my groceries. But then he says that Kevin Owens looks like an ice cream salesman, but he's great.
It's just a classic backhanded compliment from a pro wrestler. Like, you look like crap, but man, you're the guy. Hey, you're not as good as me, but you're the guy. That's kind of the subconscious kind of, reference to that.
Yeah, just don't tombstone him, or else you'll find yourself not being the guy soon.
Well, you hit him with the stunner. He's going to call for his family to come into the ring. Oh, here we go.
Next one. The very last one, number 10.
This is not something I heard before. Are you kidding me? Number 10, The Undertaker Discovery. The Undertaker, Mark Calaway, was one of the bounty hunters in the movie Suburban Commando. That's true. We became really good friends. And once we were done, I said, man, you should come to New York. But little did we know at the time that Undertaker would paralyze Hulk Hogan at Survivors. So Hulk Hogan regrets the fact that he discovered the Undertaker. Can two things be true at once?
Well, he never wrestled again. He died a couple of days later.
Well, he was dead to begin with, the Undertaker.
I guess so. So I've given you the quote there.
Where did we end up? You should come to New York. I'm going to give you the full quote here. It's kind of funny how The Undertaker came about. You can sense the humble brag about to happen when he sets up that sentence. I was doing a movie called Suburban Commando, and we needed a couple of really big aliens. We had one actor, and we couldn't find another guy big enough. So I remembered, Hulk Hogan, remembered Mean Mark Calaway from the NWA, which wasn't the NWA, it was WCW at the time. He was working in Atlanta, Georgia for Jim Barnett at the time. Was Jim Barnett there in 90?
Maybe. I think he was.
Jim Barnett was a booker in WCW for, I don't know when he was in WWE, but Jim Barnett was one of the names that creatively did a lot. He's the one that actually got Ultimate Warrior kind of the opportunity to go to WWF at the time.
Did he really?
Yeah. During the Ultimate Warrior has a shoot interview with, I think, Mike Johnson from a long time ago, and he told the story about that with Barnett.
Well, there you go. I learned something. I know Jim Barnett was hanging around at the time. I didn't know if he was in a position of power. I certainly don't think he was booking. In '89, I think it was George Scott.
Well, he had a position of influence within the whole industry.
Yeah, we can agree on that one, most certainly. So I had somebody to hunt him down, and we brought him to Hollywood. And The Undertaker, Mark Calaway, was one of the bounty hunters in the movie Suburban Commando. We became really good friends. And once we were done, until he paralyzed him, done, and I said, man, you should come to New York. So I brought Mark Calaway in to meet Vince McMahon, and Vince took a long look at him. He was a monster at 6'10" and in really good shape. And Vince goes, I'm going to call you The Undertaker. There you go. Just that quickly. I said, oh my God, this will never work with the body bags and dead people, but I was wrong on that one, so The Undertaker was born. So he's humble bragged himself into thinking that the gimmick wasn't that good.
Okay.
Now, the version that I heard was that Vince took one look at him because he's so tall. He wanted to call him the Overtaker because he'd always go over in his matches and be undefeated. And Hogan goes, brother, what about Undertaker? Vince was like, everybody,
Have you ever heard one of these, like from the old days, and it's like with Elvis or whoever, and it's like And that's when I told him, Elvis, that'll be your first number one. Or the Beatles or something like that. And everyone seems to have some sort of anecdote in the music business where,
I was the first one to tell him that that's going to be the first number one.
It's the old I was there. It was the I was there humble brag.
Yeah.
With that being said, Suburban Commando was filmed between September 24th, 1990 and January the 18th, 1991. Now, The Undertaker was already in contact with WWF at the time, by the time that Suburban Commando started shooting. The Undertaker's recollections here. So I just copied this from a website. With The Undertaker finally taking interviews to promote the Last Ride docu-series on the WWE Network, Calaway recently discovered how he got the part on ESPN's Cheap Heat podcast, having left on WCW where he wrestled as Mark Calaway in the middle of 1990. So he already left by mid-1990. Calaway met WWF leaders Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson, Bruce Pritchard, and J.J. Dillon about joining the WWF, but they didn't have anything for him at that moment. But while waiting in limbo, with his WWF future uncertain, Calaway got a call from the company requesting he audition for the role in the Hulk Hogan movie. So it turns out it wasn't a combination of Hulk Hogan and Jim Barnett. Quote, Undertaker says, worst movie ever. It was awful. Truly, truly awful. Thankfully, not long after filming the movie, Calaway got a call from Vince McMahon who asked him, is this The Undertaker? And hang on, this says not long after the filming the movie. We've just established it stopped filming in 91. Anyway, Vince McMahon asked him, is this The Undertaker? And the rest is wrestling history.
Well, not quite until Hogan's next interview where he basically, when does he discover Vince McMahon Jr.? He's on commentary and he said, brother, you could be a great promoter, just like your father.
We all know it was in the Battle of Gettysburg and he's staring across. And it's like, there he is, brother. That's the guy who's going to lead professional wrestling into the next millennium.
Now, we can joke like this, but I will give a real take on this, that if you're paired up with Hogan and you're working Hogan in the program, especially during the heyday of the original Hulkamania run, you're making money. Honky Tonk Man's talked about this. Other people, Kamala got shorted a little bit on his pay. He's talked about that in shoot interviews. But anybody who's attached to Hogan within that program for a pay-per-view or a run on house shows, you're going to make probably the best money you ever made in your career. And that is because of Hulk Hogan. The business is what it is today because of two people, Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon Jr. We cannot lose sight of that. I hate this kind of stuff, and this is a serious part of us kind of having fun with it. But to see people like Hogan and Flair and people that become this when their legacy gets heard, and when a young person looks at them in a different light other than, man, I want to be a star like that when I'm older, or when I'm in the wrestling business, I want to be able to be a main eventer, be WWE champion, all that stuff. And to see that they're the two main examples. And Hogan obviously has a lot of projects with the Real American Beer, and he's always trying to at least, I guess, market his brand. But sometimes that can create more problems the longer and the more frequently you're in front of a microphone, you're in front of a camera. And I feel like Hogan, and Flair doesn't do it as much, but Hogan especially, I feel like when he does his interviews, he feels like he needs more exciting stories. I can't just tell the same 5 things. I need to update it. I need to bring it up to current 2024. I still need to be cool. Do you sense this kind of thing where he feels like he's forced to say these outlandish things in his own mind?
Flair isn't above just making complete crap up as well. I mean, he once on an RF video shoots famously claimed he was in the locker room when Bruiser Brody got stabbed.
Flair said that?
Oh, God, yeah. I can find it for you. I think I've got it on my computer somewhere. I actually clipped it. And yeah.
Well, Dutch would be able to fact check that in 2 seconds, but they're such good friends. I don't think
Dutch was there.
No, that's
Dutch
what I mean. Yeah, Dutch was absolutely there, but I'm saying I don't want to do anything to ruin their friendship. So I'm not going to try to get in the middle and stir it up.
Yeah, you're going to spot. But
I wouldn't take that Dutch. I wouldn't take that Dutch. Nope. And I can't wait for my diplomas to come out.
I don't know why people lie like they think people can't fact check this. But the thing was, when Ric Flair said this was in like the late 2000s, it's like he must know the internet exists. He must know that there are some records. And it was really easy to debunk that one. The same way as it's really easy to debunk Billy Jack Haynes witnessing the boys in,
what was it, Alabama?
Boys
or
on the
something like
Tracks
that?
in Arkansas.
Boys on the Track.
Yeah, and it's like, I actually looked this up. I found out he had a match in California that same day. And it's like, man, unless he was using Hulk Hogan's locker room wormhole.
He gained time. You know, you make a joke about this, but I've researched these things and CERN and all that stuff. It could be possible. Hulk Hogan could be he could have been before drones, before holograms, before Hogan could have access to alien technology.
Why did he never fight Night
To use
Owl?
his voice on my saying, "I'll show you, brother. I'll
I
show
can't do
you."
it. Bust me throat.
With that being said, you know, we've mocked Hogan's obvious lies for so long. I want to say one thing. I mean, you can say a lot of things about Hulk Hogan, like he's a habitual liar, obviously. But one thing that I always take away from him is every single story you hear about him that doesn't revolve around secret recordings or that kind of nature is that he's never turned a fan down for an autograph. Now, I don't know if this is just really good PR on his part or if he's just genuinely... and so many people have spoke up to him. You know, he's done so many Make-A-Wishes, and even before, I guess, Make-A-Wish was a thing, visiting sick kids, signing autographs, and always stops in the street if somebody stops him to talk to him. And that is at least one mark, I think, of someone who, whether he thinks it's great PR or not, really cares and actually has a heart and has never forgotten that the fans have got him to where he is. And I think people don't... Obviously, you know, the headlines and the negativity get everything. You know, more press, of course, but I don't think he gets enough praise for being really fan-friendly and actually a good dude in that respect.
Yeah, when it counts, Hogan is the Hulk Hogan, the real American, all that stuff when it comes to children. I've seen clips of his beach shop in Clearwater Beach, fans coming in and him being there and pictures and the little boy doing the Hogan thing and him backing up. He's very fan-friendly. I said it, I'll say it again. There wouldn't be a wrestling business today, what it is, with the amount of money. We would not be talking like this if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. And we got to throw the unpopular name in there, but it's a reality and it's true. Vince McMahon Jr. Those two guys created a nationwide and a worldwide brand out of WWF at the time. They had Harley Race wanting to shoot them when they came to Kansas City, but then he ended up getting a job at the end of the day. They had promoters in the territories like with basic hits out on both of them. And Hogan was basically on the front line. He had to work the shows. He had to drive. He had to fly. He had to be at the airport, the hotel, the gym. Vince could have peeled back and not been there. Hogan was right there on the front line of stuff that could have got real ugly real quick. So for everything we just kind of joke, hopefully harmlessly, about these 10 lies, I want to thank Hulk Hogan for making the business what it became. Without you, you gave your body up. You're still feeling pain today, and you're still, for positive or negative sometimes, I think mostly very positive, you are that fan-friendly, kid-friendly Hulk Hogan in public that still the people believe in. So that's good.